Okay. Um, how are you today? I am American Social Democracy, and we're going to discuss censorship coming from all ideological directions: the left, the right, and the supposedly safe center. Don't care what direction it's coming from. Censorship in any form is dangerous to any society purportedly stating themselves to be free. And the thing about it is that we're running down a slippery slope. It used to be that prior to Trump, that every presidential candidate from both parties, at least in rhetoric, said they favor freedom of speech. They did. I don't, including presidential candidates that I would never vote for in a million years, and actually dislike, whether they were sincere or not on rhetoric. It was supposed to be sacrosanct into being something that was considered not even something to be debated as far as being for freedom of speech if you favor a free society and what it means to be an American. Well, uh, in 2016, when Donald Trump entered his name in the Republican primary and ran for president, and spoiler alert, I'm about to say it's nonpartisan. So any Trump supporters or conservatives in the audience, just be prepared. You're going to hear me talk slack about Donald. You're going to hear me smack on Donald Trump a little bit, but I'm going to smack on Joe Biden too as well. So anyway, on all sides, I'm attacking your guy. Please listen to the context of what I have to say. Donald Trump in 2016 made it clear that he favored harmonizing the libel laws of Great Britain with that of the United States. And that is a direct assault on the First Amendment. And what happens in the UK, whether you are with the Guardian or the Financial Times or whatever political newspaper, or with the BBC or Sky News, or you're a British version of some irrelevant YouTuber like myself here in America, and you badmouth a public official in the UK. The way that the libel laws work in the UK is that that public official, that politician, can sue your ass, and not only for defamation of character, but if that politician wins, you have to pay the court costs, and you're probably going to have to pay a lot of money in damages to that politician's reputation, which is absolutely just bullshit. And I love Great Britain. I mean, let me put it this way: I own one of these. I own one of these. I love Great Britain, but one thing that I do not like about the UK is that it's not a free speech society. I love the fact that they have universal health care and national health service. I love the fact that the UK does not have a death penalty. I love UK when it comes to pop culture compared to what passport pop culture here in the United States, which is absolute trash, and there's nothing partisan in saying that. Um, when it comes to free speech, I am as American as apple pie. I mean, and I make it very clear that I support the First Amendment at every cost. But Donald Trump wants to harmonize the libel laws of Great Britain with that of the United States, and that is absolutely as wrong as it can be. Um, and it, many people on the right that loves Donald Trump, and even some never Trumper Republicans who barely tolerate Trump or even critical of Trump from, in some ways, to be a never Trumper is to be to the right of Trump. And I know what I'm talking about. Not in every case, but in quite a few cases. And many of them wouldn't have a problem with Donald Trump's proposal to harmonize the laws, the libel laws of the United States with that of Great Britain. There are exceptions. I first heard about it, believe it or not, from a conservative source. I'm not a fan of Glenn Beck, but when he made that claim a couple of years ago when Trump was running, And I understand he was arguing from a never Trumper mindset. I did a little bit of research on it, and I was like, okay, Glenn Beck is usually wrong about, oh, I don't know, everything. But in this one, he might be correct on this one. In fact, he was a stop clock given the right time twice a day. Donald Trump favors harmonizing the libel laws of the United States with that of Great Britain. Totally, it will have disastrous effects on our First Amendment rights here in the United States. Not only does he favor that, Donald Trump also favors, making it a felony to burn the American flag. And I know, it's offensive to burn the American flag. I agree with you, but think about it is a First Amendment right at the end of the day. I'm sorry, the First Amendment is the First Amendment. I take no exception. And before I hear some conservatives say, "Well, I bet you probably favor putting people in prison for going and burning the rainbow flag," well, let me say this: the rainbow flag and the U.S. flag, I don't care what kind of a flag it is. If you own the damn flag, wherever the situation is, and you're not violating any fire codes, you have a right to burn whatever piece of cloth you want, whether it's the American flag or whether it's the rainbow flag or whether it's the Chinese flag or the Israeli flag or the Iranian flag. I don't care what kind of flag it is. You have a right if you own a damn piece of cloth and you're not violating any fire codes. You have a right to do whatever you want with that piece of cloth. Now, I know some of y'all are going to be like, "Well, there's somebody in Iowa went to prison for 17 years or something like that." I remember it was something like that several years ago. What it was that person was a repeated felon, and my understanding is that person stole the flag off a pro LBGT, presumably mainline Protestant denomination, and burned it. And stealing is, depending on the state, whatever, it might have been considered a felony, or he might have had multiple misdemeanors that mounted up to a felony. But there was more to it than somebody just burning the rainbow flag just to burn the rainbow flag. Donald Trump favors criminal repercussions on people that burn the American flag. Let's see what else. He favors the anti-BDS law that's on the books in several, almost half the states at this point, which basically make it a criminal offense to engage in boycott, disinvestment, and sanctions against Israel. BDS. No matter where you stand on the issue of Israel, the First Amendment is the First Amendment, and that's what should count. And you should not be arrested and put in prison for 20 years because you are urging people not to purchase products made in Israel or any other country for that matter. So there you have it. I'm just giving you a few cases where Donald Trump is hostile toward the First Amendment. Governor DeSantis of Florida, also with his anti-rioting law, was meant to target Black Lives Matter. It's meant to target Antifa. But when a bunch of people who are protesting against the Cuban government are protesting, they did not apply that law equally. And my understanding was that a lot of the same provisions that's in the law that will get you arrested if you block traffic or anything like that, or present some kind of a danger. According to DeSantis, I guess he wants to only apply that to Black Lives Matter or Antifa. But if there's protests against the Cuban government, whether you support the government of Cuba or not, it's a First Amendment issue. And no, I don't think that these people should be arrested any more than Black Lives Matter or Antifa. But at the same time, I am very, very upset that Governor DeSantis, who I think is one of the worst governors in this country, by the way, of all the 50 states, and that's a mighty low bar. But I would say right now, Ron DeSantis is the worst, and watch out, he runs for president in 2024. This piece of shit is to the right of Ted Cruz. He's to the right of Tom Cotton, even. So anyway, my point is he's on the right, and he obviously is antagonistic toward the First Amendment. Now, Joe Biden, who doesn't stand for anything, instead of having people who are in the tradition of Bernie Sanders assisting him in policy decisions in the administration. He has the same run of the mill old corporate Democrats, what I call Republican light, these DLC types. Yeah, I know Democratic Leadership Council doesn't exist anymore, but the DLC types that have been running the show all these years, they're still just as much in control as ever. And they are corporatists, but at the same time, they're social engineers. Uh, Although they look like they're social engineers on the left, they're basically the authoritarian center. And being the authoritarian center is just as bad as being part of the authoritarian left or the authoritarian right. Now, if you're a part of the pro democracy left or the pro democracy right or even the pro democracy center, we may have our disagreements, but if you're committed to the idea of democracy, we can disagree on details. It's all good. I don't care whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, a Green, a fellow socialist slash social democrat, or even an unusual grade of communist that has a commitment toward human rights. I make no distinction. If you're for the basic precepts of democracy, there's no beef I have with you. But the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, her comments this week had me very worried when it comes to the very idea of protecting free speech itself. And the thing about it is that as I said, Donald Trump made it very clear he's hostile toward the First Amendment. And as you can see, I don't think the Joe Biden administration is going to be any better in that regard. And and I have my concerns. So I want you to listen to this, and I'm going to comment further. Hold tight. Give me a second here.
In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook
disinformation. We're working with
that spread disinformation.
Professionals to connect
We're working
connected medical experts
doctors and medical
who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted
medical experts
content.
with popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there. We also created the COVID-19.
I am having problems here. Hold on. Let me try that again. Bear with me.
In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government,
we have increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect medical experts who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there. We also created the COVID community corps
to get factual information into the hands of local messengers. And we're also investing,
as you will have seen, in the President, the Vice President, and Dr. Fauci's time.
Okay, get back to this. Okay, here I am again. Let me just comment on this. As if you could, I hope you heard it right. I couldn't hear it too well, but what I want to mention is that you could tell if you listen to Jen Psaki's speech there. It sounds like there's a commitment to silence people. And what business is it of the U.S. government to determine what is acceptable speech? Why should the U.S. government determine this and focus on somebody is putting out untrue information? Who are you to say what is untrue information in regard to COVID? I'm more inclined to agree and I am going to agree that maybe there's a lot of crackpots and conspiracy theorists putting out horrible information about COVID to the people that I think that any clear thinking person should just outright um, reject out of their own common sense. It is not in the U.S. government's place to determine what is true or not in social media. I don't even think it's within the rights of social media itself to determine what is true and untrue, because that is actually an assault on the First Amendment. Fuck property rights of the social media. Um, Free speech rights before property rights. And there's a way to resolve this that would avoid messy lawsuits. Put a law in that guarantees the right of free speech of everyone in social media and regulate that social media as a public utility. By regulating it as a public utility, you defend you kind of defend the property rights of social media in the sense that they can't get sued and lose their money and revenue and all of that. But it also guarantees the rights of people, whether people wants to do commentary on how delicious apple pie is, which can't offend anyone, or whether it's something that's crazy like Alex Jones. The point I'm trying to make is that that information, all information, needs to be out there for people to determine, and only that way will we be a truly enlightened society. If you think about it, mainstream news 20 years ago, the narrative was, whether it was Fox News or CNN or even MSNBC, was that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and he's colluding with Osama bin Laden, and that they're going to go and attack the West with nuclear weapons, biological and chemical weapons, and that's why we need to go and take out Saddam Hussein and invade Iraq and turn that into to a Western democracy. And those who said, no, this is a wrong approach, like MSNBC fired Bill Donahue, and they fired Jesse Ventura for being opposed to the war in Iraq and the Bush Cheney doctrine. You had Ed Schultz years later getting fired by MSNBC, for example, for going around and having favorable news coverage of Bernie Sanders. Now, don't make it sound like this is just the liberals that are in favor of this sort of thing. You had Bill O'Reilly calling for the University of Colorado to go and fire Ward Churchill, who is a professor who was engaging in 9/11 truth conspiracy theories. So this goes all across the board here. You had Michael Savage, who was calling for the arrest of people from MSNBC that started to turn against the war later on during the Bush administration. So you have people who are opposed to the First Amendment rights all across the board. And turn out that those of us that were opposed to the war in Iraq and opposed to nation building and opposed the Bush Cheney doctrine, we ended up being the one that was correct. I mean, even a lot of conservatives now regretted their support for the Iraq War. Now, there's some like Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and people like that that if it was up to them, they would just keep that Bush Cheney doctrine going. I mean, it is going currently, but they're okay with it. In other words, in fact, if it was up to Sean Hannity and Mark Levin and people like that, they'll give us more of it. And you had Rick Perry, the dumbass from Texas, who was the Secretary of Energy under Trump. When he was running for president, he said if he gets elected, he will put American troops right back into Iraq the way it used to be around again. These people, they're crackpots and they're to be laughed at. Point I'm trying to make is that the left was so correct on this issue that even Glenn Beck made an apology years ago to the liberal movement, said, liberals, you were right and I was wrong. So sometimes even the most deplorable gets it. Okay, but the thing about it is we have to protect the First Amendment under all. That's priority number one. I don't care who you are. on the left, the right, or the center. You got to protect freedom of speech. So if you don't, it'll come back to bite you in the ass. They took Alex Jones off the air on the right. They took that right winger off the air. They banned the Worldwide Socialist website several months ago online. And while they took Donald Trump off of Twitter and Facebook, they did the same thing with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. So, the point I'm trying to make is all across the board, everybody's getting censored, and freedom of speech ain't pretty, but the alternatives will always be uglier. Trust me and you when I say this. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, comment anyway. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Feel free also to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button so you're kept up to date with hard-hitting social democratic commentary by yours truly, American social democracy. And until next time, I am, as I said, American social democracy. Peace. Class struggle yesterday, class struggle today, class struggle tomorrow, and class struggle until we achieve full economic and social justice in our time. Oh, one last thing. As soon as I work out the bugs with my software, I know y'all going to get tired of me talking about my software, StreamYards. I'm going to be interviewing various people occasionally. I was supposed to interview Dwight Welch yesterday. That didn't happen, but it's going to happen. I just need to work out the bugs, be patient, and I will talk to all of y'all later. Have a great day.